House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 4, The Red Dragon and the Gold. And I gotta say, this may be House of the Dragon's best episode yet. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, Brent here back with Variants. We cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, House of the Dragon. And this episode was an absolute banger. Sure, there's some dialogue at the beginning of this episode, but once things really got going, they really got going. And just to put things in perspective, you need this buildup in order to get this level of payoff. If you just rushed in dragon versus dragon constantly, these battles would have no meaning, they would have no purpose, they would just fall flat, albeit the whole shock factor would be there. But at the end of the day, the shock factor wouldn't have hit that meaningful impact that we got over on like our live watch of House of the Dragons, where everyone in chat, and including myself, was going on screen of, holy cow, this is actually happening. But before we get to that moment in time, let's take a moment to talk about the person who wasn't there. Let's talk about our boy, Damon. And look, I'm not a wise individual by any means, but at a certain moment in time, you kind of need to look at Damon square in the eye and be like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why in the world would you do things the way that you're currently doing them? You literally just called this woman a witch. While you're tripping out on this magic bed that enhances your dreams, and you decide to trust a witch by your own words. No one put these words into your mouth, and decide to trust this drink and let things just play out as they may. That is wild to be able to trust anybody at any moment in time. It's like literally going to a war council where you know everyone is trying to end you and not suspect that the glass may potentially be poisoned. So for Daemon to go out here and now just be tripping out of his mind, we run into one of our old familiar characters. Some of you may not recognize this individual at the table next to him. However, we got introduced to him in season 1 of House of the Dragon. Remember that little kid who was promising Rainier that her days would be easy and that she'd be full of love and full of respect? Yeah, that's that kid. He grew up. This is a great way of showing how a time skip affects everybody all the same, that we all grew up together, we've all grown, and we've all matured at this moment in time. Now he's at a war council with Daemon, and he's still talking about, hey, Rhaenyra, she was beautiful, she was so sweet, things were great, I understood her decision. I'm going to do everything I can to help her because I truly felt the way I felt about her, and that just kind of is what it is. But Daemon is too busy out here just coming off a terrible trip and starts having visions of his ex-wife. And like, I understand people have terrible visions and terrible dreams at the time, but if you told me like your deceased, you know, ex-spouse is now roaming the table giving out drinks to people in the middle of a war council, things are terrible psychologically for you as the individual. And Daemon is likely headed down an even darker path. For those who know from the books, things are only going to continue to get more and more twisted and convoluted for Daemon. It's going to be really exciting to see how they play that out. Moving on from there, look, Rhaenys, the queen who never was, has been an absolutely fantastic character through and through. Her and Corliss's relationship is probably the only wholesome relationship that we have seen in a House of the Dragon. Like, let's just put that into perspective, because otherwise, it's literally a brother and a sister got married, Aegon and his wife, who now, they lost their kid, was the huge impact of blood and cheese. Or we have the relationship between Daemon and his niece, Rhaenyra. That is what we have at this moment in time that has been built up on screen. Things aren't looking really good for wholesome relationships in Westeros, other than Corlys and Rhaenys. And they were communicative. They had a lot of deep talks. They had a lot of good understanding of one another. They wanted to make sure everything was on the same page. So their dialogue about the ship, pay key attention to how they talked about Alan. What happened with him is pivotal moving forward to the development of Corlys as things continue to go on there. Moving on to our next big moment we need to talk about. Look, Aemon's plotting behind his brother's back should not be shocking. Aegon is king in title alone. He's doing the same thing Joffrey was doing in Game of Thrones. He is a king by title. Tywin was really running the show. We all knew that. We all understood that. Nothing was more obvious than when Tywin sent Joffrey off to bed just because he told him to in the middle of the day. Like it was like 4 p.m. and he's like, go to bed. And then Joffrey got sent off to bed. He was the king. He was in charge of him, but not really. Now Aemon is doing much the same thing. He literally is like, I planned the battle strategy. I planned how this is going to work. I know how this is going to go. I'm going to draw them out. And then I'm going to make my plan come to absolute fruition. So we're going to make sure that everyone knows where we're going at the right time. He's communicating with Cole behind Aegon's back, which drives Aegon up a wall. Because look, he just wants to be thought of as wise and smart, intelligent, the center of the room. He is the moment. Nothing is too big for him. But in reality, he's Homelander without any of the superpowers, so he's just running around crying and whining and being constantly shown that people around him are smarter, they're better at fighting, they're better tacticians, they just understand what's going on. Because Aegon had all these opportunities at his fingertips that Aemon did, he just didn't do anything with them. He was all potential, no result. Aemon, on the other hand, was potential and result. Unfortunately, he fell into the typical trope that fantasy universes have. The second born never really gets to take theirs. So the fact that Aemon's been able to move these pieces around, get everyone where they needs to be, drove Aegon up a wall, which leads him to running into his mother. And she finally has the one moment where we can all agree with Alicent. Do something by doing nothing. Stop acting impulsively, Aegon. Stop acting on a whim. Start listening to those who are smarter, who are better, can make these things happen and make everyone's lives easier by doing so. You'll be thought of by being wise by acting when you need to. And Alicent firmly put him in his place and left things on a good note. However, she forgot one pivotal piece of information. If this woman had ever been a mother to her children at any moment in time, she would easily understand. Aegon does the exact opposite of what you want him to do. Hence why he suited up and decided that, you know what? Now is the time where I'm going to head out into battle and really make sure everyone believes in me, that I'm the guy, that I'm the hero, that I'm that dude. Come to find out, your dragon is a little small, you're a little inexperienced, and the queen who never was is on one of maybe 4 dragons that has actual battle experience, 2 of which we've already seen on screen between melees from the queen who never was and Vhagar for Aemon. So when those two finally meet up, the inexperienced small dragon of Aegon gets his butt handed to him by the queen who never was. She was more experienced. She knew how to do this. She literally saw him and started smirking. It's not really a good sign when your opponent is smirking at you when you're running into one another. That means they're really not taking you all that seriously. So once that little battle decides to finish up rather accordingly, we see Vhagar come in after being beautifully camouflaged. Aemon, another brilliant idea. And he was willing to light everybody on fire using Dracarys in order to make things happen. However, you remember most Targaryens don't necessarily burn all that easily, so results varied. Then we had, the crashing of Aegon's dragon, which was tragic in a sense, but at the same time, with what was really going on, the death of the queen who never was is fully set in stone. Aemon was just a better tactician, and he had a bigger dragon. There really wasn't much to say in terms of who had the most courage. The queen who never was. Who was the most intelligent? The queen who never was. The one that we're rooting all for? The queen who never was. I can't dial that home enough. But sometimes there's just a bigger, badder dog in the yard, and Vhagar is that individual. He is the power of Team Green. He is the one that is the backbone of that team. He's their best fighter. He's their best strategist. He's their best war general. He has the biggest dragon. How much more important could he be? If he falls, so does Team Green. It is that simple. And I think Rhaenys knew this. She decided to make sure that this moment played out to where she thought she'd make a decisive advantage, because we saw the look on her face that she was not comfortable with the idea. But she was willing to do what needed to be done to ensure that the war would come to a timely and just end in her mind. Unfortunately, she was wrong on all accounts. The war is going to continue in full effort. And now we have to sit here and speculate. Aegon, is he really dead? I said on the live stream, I believe he's dead. After some time and reflection outside the moment, he's likely not dead. He's probably intensively injured, very sick, and just completely worn out at this moment in time. Considering a fall from that height would not or end most people, having him have to go through this and then try and be a liege lord and leader afterwards, I don't really think that's something that's going to be changing. I think the only thing that we're going to notice changing is how he handles things, knowing that Amon just handled business, took the knife of prophecy, put that on his belt, and continued to move on. I think Cole went to his knees more in a sense of the fact he was relieved that Aegon was either still living or not, because his dragon is alive. I believe he would be too. I think at this moment in time, even if Aegon did, kick the bucket, so to speak, that in the end, it wouldn't be all that big of a loss for House Green. In fact, they'd probably be better unified because Aemon would be running the show, and he's a better strategist, more cunning, and more willing to get the job done than his brother is. So that's just my 2 thoughts on that. Next week, seeing how things are going to play off after this is going to be very interesting for all of us. If you want to be tuned for that, be sure to hit that lovely Reddit subscribe button. It greatly helps us out, as we have a 1,000 subscriber giveaway coming up for you, the viewers. Some of these lucky prizes may be for one of you potential lucky winners. In fact, we may have a couple lucky winners. We'll have more details on that as we get closer to the day. I have been Brent for Geek Variants, and I will see you Tuesday night for another episode of The Accolade. Stay tuned.